Hello and welcome to another session of weekly analysis of current events. So we'll be analyzing or we'll be seeing the UPSC relevant current affairs and the news of the previous week in this particular session. So without wasting any time, we'll go on to the first topic from the culture topic, that is Born Bibi. So Born Bibi is a forest goddess. So I'll tell you why this is in news, because there is a century-old folk theatre and a form of worship for the forest goddess, that is Born Bibi. And the natives of Sundarbans, they survive by understanding the nature of power and the power of nature and the limits of the human needs. So Born Bibi, as I told you, it's a forest deity, and its central character of Palagan. Palagan is a musical drama. Okay, so Born Bibi Palagan is a musical drama which is unique to Sundarban. So people express their belief in Born Bibi through this Born Bibi Palagan. That's a drama storytelling, and this is enacted throughout the island. So the shrines to Born Bibi and Born Bibi have another twin brother called as Shah Jangoli. So the shrines to Born Bibi and Shah Jangoli, they dot the landscape of Sundarbans. Okay, and the followers of Born Bibi are basically fishermen, crab collectors, honey gatherers. So they live in this mangroves with the wild animals like tigers or crocodiles, and they earn a living out of it. So in order to survive in such a hard situation, Born Bibi as a deity helped them. That is their belief. So they believe that only Born Bibi protect them when they enter the forest and survive in tiger dominated areas. Okay, now the next topic is from geography, and it is Mizoram quake zone. So this is in news because Mizoram experienced at least 8 moderate earthquakes between June 21 and July 9. So these tremors, they ranged from 4.2 to 5.5 on Richter scale, which is high. So I'll tell you, there is a recent finding, that the recent study that indicated that Mizoram is actually caught between two subterranean faults. One is Chura-Chandpur Mao fault, and another one is Mart fault. Okay, so this Chura-Chandpur Mao fault, it is actually running north-south direction into Myanmar. Okay, so this will be along the border of Champai. And the other fault, that is a Mart fault, it runs from northwest to southeast across Mizoram. So this is coming under the river Mart near Serchhip. So there are two subterranean faults, Chura-Chandpur fault and the Mart fault, and Mizoram is caught in between them, and these are two major faults. Okay, and there are many other minor faults also in between these two major faults that are very deeper. So that is why this Mizoram is experiencing a lot of earthquakes recently, and not recently, always. So this is a recent study. So talking about the faults, what is a fault basically? It is a thin zone of crushed rock that is separating the blocks of Earth's crust. So whenever an earthquake occurs and on one of these faults, what happens? The rock on one side of the fault slip with respect to other. Slip two faults are there. When the earthquake happen, one will slip. Okay, so this is all about earthquake of Mizoram. The next topic is from polity area. So it is the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Migrants. So why we are discussing it now is because Parliamentary Standing Committee on Home Affairs, they advise the government to set up a national database of migrant workers so that they don't fall out of the social security cover. So after this COVID-19 situation, the pandemic situation, what happened is that migrant workers are the most exposed people. They are actually the most suffocating or the affecting people. So even if the government wanted to do some social security services, they fall out because they are not included. So the Parliamentary Standing Committee, they asked the government to create a database so that the people, the migrant workers are also added in it, and they will also get all the services from the government. And there are three types of committees, basically talking about the committees. One is standing committee, the other one is select committee, and the third one is finance committee. Now, standing committee are basically, they are like that for an year. So they are constituted on an annual basis. Okay, their existence is also uninterrupted. So mainly majority of the standing committees are department related, also attached to a particular department. Okay, then we have select committees. Select committees are basically made for a purpose. Okay, so for deliberated for a particular bill, or once the bill is disposed of, that select committee is also gone. Okay, just to study a bill, just to formulate policies about a bill, there's such things. Okay, and there is a third type of committee called as finance committee. Finance committee is somewhat very powerful because they deals the finances, right? So there are three types of finance committees: public accounts committee, estimate committee, and committee on public undertaking. Okay, now our topic of concern here is parliamentary standing committee. So what is parliamentary standing committee? It is actually a standing committee. That means it is constituted on an annual basis, and it draws authority from two articles. One is article 105, which talks about the privileges of the parliament members, and then we have article 118, that is 118, on parliament's authority to make rules for regulating its procedures and conduct of business. So this committee, they make reports based on various aspects, and these reports are very exhaustive, but it provides very authentic information on matters related to governance. So the bills that are referred to the committees are returned to the House with significant value addition. That means they give their own amendments, their own changes to the bills. But however, it is not binding on the government. So the Parliament is not bound by the recommendations of the Parliamentary Standing Committee. I'll tell you how this will work. Okay, when a bill comes up in a House for general discussion, it is open to that House to refer it to a select committee of the House or a joint committee of two houses, either a select committee of a particular House or a joint committee of two houses. So a motion has to be moved and adopted in the House in which the bill comes up for recommendation or for consideration. If Rajya Sabha is considering a bill, then a motion has to be adopted in Rajya Sabha. You are understanding the fact, right? So in case the motion adopted is for reference of a bill to a joint committee, then the decision is conveyed to the other house also to nominate the members of that particular house to the committee. Likewise, a select committee or a joint committee will consider the clauses of the bill, and then the amendment can be made by the members of that particular committee, and the committee can also take the information from any associations or public bodies or experts who are actually interested in that particular bill. And after the bill has done all this studies and everything is done on that particular bill, the committee, they will submit its report to the House. Okay, so the members who do not agree with the majority report, they also can dissent against the report, but still that particular report is not binding on the Parliament. But this is how it works. Okay, that is very important. It's a polity related topic, that is why. Now the next topic is from international relations. We have Chabahar Rail project. Why we are discussing it here is because Iran has decided to move ahead with the construction of a railway line from Chabahar port to Zahedan, and it is without any assistance from India. Why? Because India had a delay in funding recently, so the Iran is moving without India. Okay, so we'll talk about Chabahar and why is it important. So Chabahar is located on the Gulf of Oman, and it's the only oceanic port of the country. And why India is making this Chabahar port happen is because India can bypass Pakistan in transporting goods to Afghanistan. Okay, and it will also boost India's access to Iran, because it will be like acting like a gateway for the international north-south transport corridor. So INSTC, or the International North-South Transport Corridor, it is a multimodal project. That means it includes sea, rail, roads, all type of networks in order to connect countries like India, Russia, Iran, Europe and Central Asia. So it also helps India to counter the Chinese presence. So tell me, where is the Chinese presence in the Arabian Sea? It is through the Gwadar port in Pakistan. So China is building the Gwadar port in Pakistan. That is how they are showing their presence. So the increased presence in the Arabian Sea. So India wants to oppose that particular presence by building Chabahar port. Okay, so for a diplomatic perspective, by seeing it from a diplomatic perspective, Chabahar port could be used as a point from where the humanitarian operations can also be coordinated. That is also another perspective regarding the Chabahar port. Fine. Now another topic from international relations portion is one more thing I would like to add here is that whenever such topics come up from international relations, or whether we are discussing a place, please try to locate it on map, or at least try to draw a figure of the Arabian Sea portion with showing the Gwadar port and the Chabahar port. I'll tell you why. Because even if you're writing the mains examination, if there is a question related to INSTC, or if there is a question related to the Chabahar rail project or the port, then actually you can quote it with an example of a diagram, or you can depict a diagram showing that this is Gwadar port, this is Chabahar port. So it will be easier for the examiner to understand your point of view, as well as it will be a very authentic method to depict a question like that. So better it will be benefited in the main prelims perspective as well as in the mains perspective. Now the next topic is Pakistan-Afghanistan Transit Trade Agreement. So this is in news because recently Pakistan stated that it will allow Afghanistan to send goods to India using the Wagah border from July 15th onwards. So we need to study what Afghanistan-Pakistan Transit Trade Agreement means. So it's a bilateral trade agreement, and it is signed in 2010 by Pakistan and Afghanistan, that calls for a greater facilitation in the movement of goods among the two countries. And the agreement, it is a multimodal project. That means it includes airports, railways, roads and ports for the trade transit. And it will also have many designated transit corridors. So the agreement, it supersedes the Afghanistan's 1965 Transit Trade Agreement, which actually granted Afghanistan the right to import duty-free goods through Pakistani seaports. So that is what we'll have to learn about the Afghanistan-Pakistan Transit Trade Agreement. Now the next topic is Hagia Sophia Museum of Turkey. So why this is in news? Because recently the government of Turkey has decided to convert the Hagia Sophia museum into a mosque. So it is a tourist icon of Istanbul. Okay, so Hagia Sophia is listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a very important, culturally important site of Istanbul, and it's a 1500-year-old iconic structure, and it was built in 532 AD. Okay, so originally it is a Greek Orthodox Christian patriarchal cathedral. And what happened is that after the Ottomans took over in 1453, they turned this particular cathedral into the imperial mosque. Okay, so they converted into the mosque. And in 1934, when Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, he came to power and he found the Republic of Turkey, he converted the museum they converted this mosque into museum in order to show that the country is so secular. Okay, so again there was many reforms and many protests from the Islamic groups and the nationalists in the country asking for converting Hagia Sophia back into a mosque. Okay, so Erdogan in 2019, the president, he said that he is going to convert it back into a mosque again. Okay, so there are three stands coming here because originally it belongs to Greek. That is, the Greek have a stand here, the Turkey have a stand here, and America also have a stand here. Okay, so we'll discuss all of them. So Turkey, they actually want to change it to a Muslim mosque and show that it is show the superiority of the Islamic world. Okay, so it symbolizes the conquest of Christian Constantinople by Ottomans. That is the superiority of the Islamic world. So that is very important for them. And they are saying that even though it's a tourist attraction, it is more like a political symbol. So that is Turkey's stand. And USA, as they recognize Jerusalem as a capital of Israel, so that also coincided with this particular event. And again, Greece, what Greece is saying that it is a World Heritage Site, so it should be preserved as such. It should not be used for the religious purposes or a personal interest of a country. So it should be kept as such, like the whatever is said in the World Heritage Site. Okay, these are the stands of all these countries. Okay. Now we will learn about Azad Patan POK Hydel project. So China and Pakistan have signed an agreement for the 700 megawatt Azad Patan Hydel power project. So this will be coming on the Jhelum River in Sudhnoti district of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, that is POK. So talking about the project, Azad Patan project is like a hydropower scheme project, which also have four other projects like Mahal, Kohala, Karot and Chakoti Hatian. So there altogether there are 5 hydropower schemes in this particular project. So Azad Patan, Kohala and Karot, they are developed under CPEC framework. What is CPEC? It's China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So it comes as a part of OBOR of China. So this particular project is using the run of river scheme. That is, it have the natural advantage, right? It's a because Jhelum is a mountain river. It's a Himalayan river, so it is coming from a very high altitude and it's running down. So the run of the river can be utilized, just like the way we build the gravity dam. Same principle apply here. So it is made on run of the river scheme, and it's a 90-meter high dam, and it's a very huge reservoir. Also, it's a 3.8 square kilometer reservoir, and it is developed on the BOOT model. What is BOOT? It is build, own, operate and transfer model, and the work will be finished by 2024. So after finishing the project, the dam will be transferred to the Pakistan jurisdiction only after 30 years of building it. Okay, around 2054 they will be getting the complete authority on the dam. So what is the concern for India? That is also our area, right? So the concern for India here is that one thing, it is questioning the territorial integrity of our country. So India has protested the construction of the dams and other infrastructures in POK and in Gilgit-Baltistan for a very long time, because that is the area that we claim, that is under India's territory, right? So if the Pakistan along with China is building some infrastructures or dam in that particular area, means that is questioning our territorial integrity. So that is one thing. And again, there was recent construction of this Daimar Basha Dam on Indus River in Gilgit-Baltistan. We actually protested very much because of that dam coming there, because it is in the POK region. So that also coincides here. Then we have this constant conflict with China. So the signing of Hydel projects, it's come at a time when India and China is not having a very good relationship. We have this Galvan Valley issue in the Ladakh region. We have many multi-level talks happening. We have this firing happening in the border. So under all these disturbances, still we are witnessing Pakistan joining China on a project that is in our territory. So that is again a concern for India. And through these projects, China and Pakistan has been consolidating their presence in Indian region. And another problem happened here is Iran has also removed India from their Chabahar rail project. So everything is coming in a single slot. That is a major concern for India. And there is also security concern because Pakistan is a country which continuously promote terrorism, and especially there is uncertainty and problems happening, insurgencies happening in the POK region. So if more funding happens in the region, it can indirectly affect India's security. So that is also another reason for India's concern. Okay, and the next topic for discussion here is the Neowise comet. So recently discovered comet, it is also called as SEBA 2020 F3. It's also known as Neowise. So it is found by NASA's telescope, and it will make its closest approach to Earth on July 22. Okay, so the UPSC point of view, they have a habit of asking the celestial bodies recently found and space related science and tech questions. So we'll just learn the name. Okay, we don't have to go dig deeper, but we'll just learn the surface things. Okay, so the comet, it takes around 6,800 years to complete one lap around its orbit, and it will be at a distance of 64 million miles while crossing the Earth's outside orbit. So on July 3, the comet was closest to the Sun at 43 million kilometers. So on this day, the comet it cruised inside the Mercury's orbit, which is closest, because Mercury is the closest planet to the Sun, right? So due to its proximity to the Sun, its outer layer was released, creating an atmosphere called as coma. So coma is made of gas and dust from its icy surface. Fine, so it's not a very important news, but I'm just mentioning it because it's from the space path. Fine. So now the next topic for discussion here is a Spike LR anti-tank guided missile. This is in news because the Indian Army is going for another order. So we have already ordered it from Israel. So we are going to repeat the order of the Spike LR, that's a long range anti-tank guided missile from Israel as a part of emergency procurement. Okay, so it's a fourth generation anti-tank missile, and it is completely developed and manufactured by Rafael Advanced Defense System of Israel, and it's a portable weapon. Okay, it's a portable anti-armor weapon. Its range is around 4 kilometers, and it can be used in both modes. It can be used in the fire and forget mode, and it can also be used in fire, observe and update mode, and that uses the fiber optic data link. Okay, so it is used by the infantry soldiers, the special rapid reaction forces, the ground forces, helicopter crew. It can be also launched from the helicopters. So it can work in non-line of sight, NLOS. So there are two types of mode. One is line of sight mode, the other one is non-line of sight mode. So it can be used from non-line of sight mode, allowing the gunner to go under cover. So you can even fire it, operate it in a covered position. That is what we mean. Okay. Now coming to the environment portion, the first topic we are going to discuss here is Dehing Patkai Wildlife Sanctuary. So recently the National Board for Wildlife, they have recommended coal mining in the areas of Dehing Patkai Elephant Reserve in Assam. So talking about the sanctuary, it is also called as Jaipur Rainforest, and it is located between the Dibrugarh and Tinsukia district of Assam. And Dehing, it got the name because Dehing is a river that flows through the forest, and Patkai is a hill at the foot of which the sanctuary lies. That is why Dehing Patkai, the name. Okay, and the common fauna or the animals that you can find are the Chinese pangolin, the flying fox, wild pig, sambar, barking deer, gaur, then Malayan giant squirrels, etc. So it is the only sanctuary in India where you can find 7 different species of wild cats. Okay, there are tigers, leopards, clouded leopards, leopard cats, golden cat, jungle cat and marbled cat. So only thing that is not here is, I think, the snow leopard. Right, rest is there. So another important species here is the Assamese macaque. That's a primate that is found in the forest, and it is also there in the near threatened species list. So it is there in the red list. So Assamese macaque is also important. And talking about the vegetation, it is mainly the rainforest, deciduous rainforest, and it is mixed with the semi-evergreen and lush green flora as well. Okay. Now coming to another topic that is from internal security, that is NatGrid and NCRB. So here the National Intelligence Grid or the NatGrid, it is in news because it has signed an memorandum of understanding with the National Crime Records Bureau to access their central online database and the FIRs and also the information on the stolen vehicles. So we learn separately what is NatGrid and what is NCRB. So NatGrid was formed after this Mumbai 26/11 attack, and it is actually to mitigate a vital deficiency which we missed out in Mumbai attack, that is a real-time information. So that was a major hurdle. That was one of the main reasons which we found lacking while detecting the US terror suspect David Headley's movement across our country. Right. So NatGrid, it is a counter-terrorism program, and it utilizes technologies like big data analytics to study and analyze the huge amount of data from various intelligence agencies or the enforcement agencies to track the terrorist and prevent the terrorist attacks. Okay. So NatGrid is an online database for actually collating all the scattered information from various organizations. So every set of information, even from the telecom, from the tax records, bank, immigration, everything is integrated and formed a single database here. Okay, so at least 10 central agencies like IB and RAW are sharing their data into the secured platform for the counter-terrorism investigations. So MOU with the NCRB will actually will help the NCRB in CCTNS database. So the NatGrid will have the access to CCTNS database. Now talking about NCRB, they were set up in 1986 to function as a repository of information. So what information it carries? It carries the information about the criminals and the crime, and it will actually help the investigators in linking the crime to the perpetrators. Right. So this was formed as a recommendation of the National Police Commission, which was set up in the time period of 1977 to 1981. Okay, so it was set up by merging so many groups like the Directorate of Coordination and Police Computer, that is DCPC, then International State Criminals Data Branch of CBI, then Central Fingerprint Bureau of CBI, and the Statistical Branch of BPR&D. So NCRB has a responsibility for coordinating or monitoring or implementing everything related to CCTNS, and CCTNS started in the year of 2009. Okay, so the CCTNS or the Crime and Criminal Tracking Network and Systems, they connect around 15,000 police stations and 6,000 higher offices of police in our country. Okay, so in 2017, NCRB launched this National Digital Police Portal. National Digital Police Portal. So this portal will allow searching a criminal or a suspect on CCTNS database. Apart from providing services to citizens, like citizens also will have use of this particular CCTNS. How? They can file complaint online. They can check the status of the complaint on a regular basis in online. So, and it also helps the people, the normal citizens, as well as the investigators and enforcement agencies as well. Now, the next topic for discussion here is the voluntary National Review. So this is a news because Niti Aayog is presenting India's second voluntary national review at UN's high-level political forum. So why this is so important is because one thing, it is on the sustainable development goals of India. The second thing, COVID situation is happening in the country and it is very vigorously spreading throughout the country. So maintaining sustainable development goal or achieving the goals in such a situation is very crucial for the country. So that is why this report is very highlighted. And the report, it is titled the Decade of Action Taking SDGs from Global to Local. So it discusses the sustainable development goals related policies and how to implement it in the COVID-19 situation in our country. So it highlighted the initiatives and responses of India. So whenever we talk about the initiatives that India has taken during the COVID-19 situation, never forget the word Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign. Okay, so this particular report, it talks about, it highlighted the initiatives and responses of India under Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign, and it will help India in accelerating the progress on this sustainable development goal even during the COVID-19 pandemic situation. And it highlighted also the remarkable process of India in reducing the multidimensional poverty, and also providing this food security and food safety, ensuring education for all, universalizing the access to electricity, clean cooking fuel and sanitation. It is very important. Okay, and it is in mains perspective and prelims perspective, it is important. And it mentions the operationalization of the world's largest health insurance program by covering 500 million citizens. So what is that particular health insurance program? Please comment the name of the health insurance program of India, which includes more than 500 million citizens. Okay, so it highlighted the leading role India has been playing in promoting the global engagement platforms such as the International Solar Alliance, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, and we also are very actively participating in the Sendai framework. What is Sendai framework for? It is for disaster risk reduction, and also the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, UNCCD, and also Paris Climate Agreement. So we can say that India have a lead role in ISA, India have a lead role in Paris Climate Agreement, in UNCCD, in Sendai framework, in disaster resilient infrastructure coalition. So everywhere India is showing its presence. And it presented a review of the progress of 17 sustainable development goals, and it also discussed the policies and the enabling environment that is helping India to achieve the sustainable development goals. Also, India is doing this approach of localizing SDGs, and localizing SDGs will help it to strengthen the means of implementation, because it is very easy when it is decentralized and if there is a participation of the local people. So that localizing of SDG is what is happening here right now. Okay, so that is all about this voluntary national review. So I found all this news is very important from the previous week, and if there are more news attached to the included in the PDF materials given to you, which is attached in the link below. So try to read it and understand it, and if you have any queries or doubt, please feel free to question or to attach it in the comment section. Okay, thank you so much.